Yo guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Booty Boy Wrestling Fan Interview. Today I'm joined with my very special guest, live. He escaped from his abandoned warehouse thing since last time. I'm here with the crazy mad one, Harry Von Vicious. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Do you like my shirt?
It's a great shirt. I was so happy with how that came out. I told the artist, I said I wanted to go somewhere between 1950s horror movie poster and 1970s sci-fi novel cover, and he nailed it.
Yeah, you and both Rick Bison kind of have the same design for these shirts.
We use the same artists a lot. And plus this is sort of there's a little bit of the tag team thing that's sort of in there. The vest that's sort of like his vest. So it's bound to be a little similar.
Now, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's rainy out, which isn't great, but it's still we're still living in COVID, so I'm still working from home. Almost never going anywhere, which the pros and cons to that.
Now, the first question that I have for you, besides the how are you doing, we just came off of Mania weekend. So what were your overall thoughts of WrestleMania this past weekend?
It's I thought it was really great. Obviously there's always you can harp on the negative if you want. I think having that many people in one place right now is a little risky, but generally it seemed like most people in the audience were keeping their masks on, and I know that the seating was distanced, so that's once I stopped hyperventilating from the stress that watching that caused, I thought it was a lot of fun and it was exciting. The rain delays were so weird with the promos that everyone had to do off the top of their head. Just we need to fill time, go go go. That was so different and weird and really kind of awesome. And you got to see a little people being a little more themselves than you would. And then I thought night one was just fantastic. I just had so much fun watching the whole thing. Night two, there were a lot of very cool moments, but I have to admit, I definitely zoned out through a lot of it. Anyone who saw my Twitter feed during that would definitely know I paid much more attention on night one. Uh, I love the Fiend is great and weird, and I don't always understand it, and to me that's perfect. I don't want to understand all of it. I don't want to be spoon fed. Here's what this story and this character. I want to be confused, and maybe yeah, a lot of people seem to feel a little let down with how that match ended, but I kind of like that. I like the idea that maybe
It
we
was
don't.
weird. We
Yeah, it
didn't
was
know what really happened.
yeah, it was weird and we don't get it, and maybe we don't need to get it.
Yeah.
um, Maybe weird is just weird to be weird. But I thought night one was fantastic. The main event was so good. I was talking with Johnny Torres and telling him like, man, that Bianca Belair catch the gorilla press from a suicide dive, roll through, and then carry all the way up the stairs and chuck her back in the ring. I saw that and thought like, man, I wish I'd thought of that first. That was great. So who knows? I'm gonna wait 6 months till everyone forgets about it, and then I'm gonna steal it.
I'll remind you in
I
6 months from now,
appreciate it.
just in case you forget.
Well, it's true. If everyone else forgets, then in all likelihood I'll forget too.
Now, do you prefer, in your own opinion, do you prefer one night of Mania or the 2 nights? In my opinion, I like the 2 nights better.
So, I mean, if I had my way, it would be like was a decade ago, where it was one night and the show was the length of a regular pay-per-view. The way it was a couple years ago, where it was, the show started at like what 4 in the afternoon or something, and it went till like
Yeah.
1 a.m. Like, ugh, no, no. There's only one company I'm okay watching for that long, and it's New Japan. Uh, and even then, I watch it in chunks. But no, watching that in real time is just torture. And the poor audience, by the time they're on to the main event, the audience is dead. The wrestlers, I mean, they've been sitting around backstage for an entire day. Oh,
Yep.
just awful, just terrible. And, is being stuck in the middle of that show, like, no one remembers your match by the time they get to the end of the show. It's been a lifetime since then. I mean,
Yeah.
I barely remember what I ate for breakfast this morning. I certainly wouldn't remember what the second match was on a show that ran for 10 hours. Um, so if we have to have this much, and at this point their roster is so big, they've got a Raw roster, a SmackDown roster. They sneak in the NXT people. The women's division is so different from what it was 10 years ago, where now it's integral. You can't have one women's match or two women's matches. There has to be four or five because there's just so much great talent and so much going on there. Given that, I think you got to do it as two nights. And frankly, they stretched NXT to two nights. So really, if you include Takeover as part of Mania, it was 4 nights, and I think they kind of had to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like same thing with NXT. I mean, they only do a 2-hour show per week, but their takeovers are at least like 2.5 hours. I mean, 3. So.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, and I'll admit, I don't keep up on the product like I should. I would like to, but just living life. I got stuff to do, and I miss watching most televised wrestling, unless it's AEW, where I have every week on Dark. I know half the people who are on the show.
Mm-hmm.
That I watch. I go out of my way to see that. Shows like 205 Live where Anthony Green is on there, or August Gray. I'll watch that to see what he's up to, and soon, Christian Casanova is going to be on there, and I try to watch that, and yeah, it just really at this point, my televised wrestling knowledge kind of revolves around where are the people that I know personally.
Mm-hmm. But you're also busy watching The Road every Wednesday night.
That's right.
About, so.
Honestly, what a series that turned out to be, huh? I mean, I think the last time we talked, season 2 hadn't started yet.
Nope, it was on a break.
So I hadn't wrestled on the series yet. So since then, I've had 5 matches, which doesn't sound like much, but it was one weekend of tapings. All of season 2 was taped in 2 days, if you can believe that. It was, I want to say, 72 matches filmed in the course of 2 days. And, considering that's the only wrestling I've done since the pandemic hit, I was very glad to have it. And what a group of matches to have, too. I mean, wrestling.
You know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like you're describing WrestleMania. 72 matches in 3 days.
Yeah. The only difference is I watched it.
Yeah.
But honestly, it was really good. The whole thing, when they're filming The Road, they are so careful with distancing, and we only have X number of people in the building at a time, no audience. It's all wrestlers. Everyone has to be tested. Everyone needs, unless you're in the ring and we've said we're rolling cameras, your mask has to be on. You're not allowed to have it off otherwise. And I think that's really great, really responsible work that they're doing. It made me feel comfortable. And for a guy who hasn't left his house really since this started, it takes a lot to make me feel comfortable somewhere. But even from a distance, getting to see and be around, so many people I know in wrestling in the area and so many friends was really great. And like, honestly, people who I used to see every weekend, Rip, Johnny Torres, Delmy, Ashley, all ZPB, all of that crew. That's the last time I've seen them. I have not seen any of them since that filming was done in early September. So,
wow.
Yeah, I'm counting down the days. I'm 1 vaccine in now. I've had shot number 1.
Me too.
There you go. Yeah, I'm counting down the days till vaccine 2, and then after that they say 14 days is when you're good. And yeah, I'm just counting it down. And the handful of places that are running and doing some tapings, they know my available date. They know when that 2 weeks is up, and I can finally go do some stuff. And I'm really looking forward to getting to do some of it again.
So to you, it sounds like it's almost like you're getting out of prison, and as soon as you get out of prison, you're like, I'm out. Book me.
Yeah, the only thing I can liken it to is the handful of times that I've been injured wrestling. You know, because it's like, oh, I just have to wait till I'm healed up, and unfortunately for me, it's, I just have to wait till everybody gets their act together. So at this point, I'm at the mercy of everybody else, which is frustrating. But yeah, it's a weird feeling because this whole time I've been perfectly healthy. You know, for a year now, I haven't so much as had a cold. Like right now, I've got some allergies from all the pollen
Yeah.
outside, but you know that happens. Otherwise, I've been good. I've been lifting. I've been outside working on stuff in the yard and going on bike rides, keeping the cardio up, and yeah, just ready and raring to go. You know, I've got a new gear being made. Uh, really looking forward to getting back to doing all the wrestling stuff. You know.
Hmm. Now, obviously, last time you were here, you had the green screen up behind you, and now you recently just painted your basement. So what are some of the updates to your home gym going on?
Oh man, it's been ever evolving from the first weekend of quarantine. You know, March of last year. One of the first things I did was I had an old pull-up bar that I hadn't even set up in the house because I'd been
Oh, here comes this story again. Just kidding.
well, yeah, it started with the pull-up bar. I had the little push-up handles and a yoga mat and 2 dumbbells. That was it. Since then, I've done stuff that has been gym upgrades down here. You know, I got rings, gymnastics rings. I got a curl bar, a preacher bar. I got a easy curl, like the actual easy curl bar, and yeah, preacher bench. I got a bench press that back pre tapings, I was lucky enough to bring over to Rip Bison's work where he welds, and he was able to reinforce it because it was not meant to carry the kind of weight I weigh or lift. Um, and I got a couple extra dumbbells and more weights, and I built my own weight tree and just adding all that stuff. But then on top of it, like you said, now I've started to work on some of the aesthetics, some of the looks, the feel of the gym. Essentially, I knew the humidity for the summer was coming, and so I got cement ceiling paint that's meant to keep the humidity out of your basement, keep everything good and dry, and just started right here on this wall and started working. It's a long basement, and just started working my way down, and it's a lot of work. It's not like regular painting a wall. Concrete is porous and textured, and it takes twice as long to get a coat of paint on it, and this stuff takes 2 coats to work, so I can't just do it once. I have to do it a second time. So right now I've done about 2/3 of the basement, which was expensive and time consuming. But again, COVID, what else am I doing? Not like I gotta be somewhere. um,
Hmm.
so that immediately made everything brighter down here in the basement. Everything's lighter. It doesn't look dank and dark like a dungeon anymore. Now it's like kind of nice to be down here. The light reflects off of all the white surfaces. Uh, but then, I had a bunch of, I'm a bit of a nerd. So I had things like electronic programmable LED strips just laying around. And so I took them and soldered them up and got a little chip running on them, and you can see it changing color behind me on this. It's behind this mirror, and just above me here, I have some 3D printed shelves with some wrestling figures. So yeah, just try to make it a little more interesting down here. Not that I get to pay much attention to it. It's really just set dressing for my Instagram clips.
Um, so one of the questions that I have also about the basement gym, when you do lunges and you're going back from one place to your gym to the other side of your basement, I'm noticing there's a lot of boxes down there, and there's also like a three-part shelf that just has a bunch of protein on it. What's up with that? And that's a
So,
lot of protein.
so, um, so a lot of the boxes is just me not getting around to throwing that stuff in my car to take to the dump. It's just it's just cardboard that needs to be recycled. Some of the boxes are larger boxes. I think I mentioned the last time I was on the show that I have chickens.
Hmm.
We have three more baby chicks coming in about 2 weeks, and while they're babies, they need.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, expectant father. Um, uh, but when they're babies, they have to be kept very warm all the time. So you can't really put them outside with the other chickens. They'd get sick and die. So they live inside in our spare room in a cardboard box with a heat lamp. And because of that, you have to replace the cardboard box about once a week because even with bedding and stuff, it gets a little soiled, let's say.
Yeah.
So anytime we have like for the cats or something, we have a pet food order that comes in a nice big box. I carefully disassemble it and fold it up and put it down here so that it can be reassembled for chickens to live in. Um, so that's what most of those boxes and stuff are. The big shelves covered with protein. That protein is all empty. I started right when quarantine began. I started keeping the protein containers, and it's again for the chickens. I discovered that I can drill right into the side of those protein things and then screw in the little waterer, the little chicken nipples, and then I can fill it
Hmm.
with water and put a little screw eye in it and hang it in there. And I don't have to pay for waterers. Those things are expensive. But these things do a great job, and they're food grade because they came with protein in them, so they're safe. Um, and if the chickens destroy it, I got a few dozen more of them.
See, like now I'm picturing in my head someone goes over to your house, one of your friends, and is like, "Oh, hey, bro, you got any protein?" And they go to your basement, and they're like, "Sweet, I love this kind," and they like dry scoop, and I'm like, "Oh, it's like that's the straw that goes in the chicken coop, or like the
Yeah, yeah.
tube."
It's just pine shavings. No,
And then that
actually,
person turns into a chicken.
the only person who's been here since the wall of supplements was created is my father, who both my parents are fully vaccinated. So my dad's been coming over. He's been helping me. We're actually working on, again, goes back to the chickens. We're expanding the chicken run, giving them a little more space. And because he was a mechanical engineer his entire career, designing that kind of stuff is real easy for him. So he came over and we came down here in the basement and we're sketching out some things. And as we came down the stairs, he looks over and he goes, "How much protein do you need?" And I told him that is an entire year's worth. That was spread out over a lot of time. And admittedly, I go through a fair bit in a day, certainly more than most people would care to consume. But that's really just because I'm too lazy to make meals sometimes.
We all
Yeah, yeah.
are. Now, you mentioned expanding the chicken. What do I call it?
It's
Run.
so there's sort of two sections. There's the chicken coop. That's the little house that keeps them safe at night and predators can't get in. And then there's the chicken run, which is this big sort of open air. It's got the chicken wire up the sides, keeps them safe from predators, but they're allowed to be outside during the day. The run is the
So,
part we're expanding.
so now with the run getting expanded, are we finally going to see the reenaction of Rocky when he's chasing the chickens? Now that you have more room.
We would, but there's three very important problems with me trying to reenact Rocky. The first is my lack of cinematic knowledge. This will shock anyone. Well, anyone who doesn't know me. I've not seen the Rocky movies. Mostly, I'm just not a sports guy, and I feel like they would do nothing for me. Essentially, if it's not a Disney movie, a Pixar movie, or something starring the Muppets or Star Wars, you can pretty much assume I haven't seen it. Um,
Okay.
But the second problem is I am not nearly fast enough to chase a chicken the way I've seen the clips, obviously, of Rocky, but
Oh,
I'm
thank
not
God.
fast enough to keep up with a chicken that moved like that. The third problem is my chickens aren't fast enough to get away from me. So it's like a descending heavy guy problem. I'm not fast enough to keep up with those chickens. My chickens aren't fast enough to get away from me, which is nice. My chickens are actually very very friendly with me and my wife. They let us just pick them up and carry them around. You know, they're just they're like cats, really.
Is any idea of maybe having your actual real cats have like a game of dodgeball against the chickens when the run is expanded?
uh, no, the cats get along really well with the chickens, uh, but we've never let them near each other. So that's how they
Oh,
get along just fine with a screen door in between. In fact, just a few days ago, one of the cats and one of the chickens literally sat on either side of a screen door and just both fell asleep, sitting there next to each other. They were just totally chill. Neither they were interested enough in each other to like be getting a good look at each other, but otherwise they were just like, all right, well, I guess this is what we're doing. And they both just fell asleep.
a paw goes over the screen to touch the chicken hand.
Yeah. Well, it's my cat showing his incredible reflexes as an apex predator.
Now, so we talked about the basement gym. We talked about the chickens. We talked about the protein powder shelves. Now, wrestling wise, besides the road, have you done any other pre tapings?
I haven't done anything else since the pandemic hit. Yeah, I was very selective. Um, and even going into the road, I was a little hesitant. I've adhered very very strongly to COVID protocols, and you know, you can go there and you can stick with the protocols, put on your mask, keep your distance, all those things, but it's still a risk. You know, the only way to be really 100% risk free for yourself and for spreading it to others was to just not go anywhere. And I'm in the really fortunate position of my wife and I, both of the colleges we work at, they let us pop into our offices at the beginning of this and grab our computers, take them home, and never look back. So the only time we have to leave the house is when I go grocery shopping once every 3 weeks.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive. My mom has to go every Saturday.
Well, I mean, but your mom's got a whole family there, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
for us, it's literally just me and my wife, and she's a very tiny person who does not eat very much. So 2/3 of the food is for me.
And the protein.
The protein comes from Amazon, so I got a recurring order set up on there. I don't even touch it. It's a subscription.
Now, this next question, I might no, butcher the name of this person, and I apologize in advance. But there's a thing called Kaiju Big Battle, and there's been some cross events between Kaiju Big Battle and Limitless Wrestling the Road. Um, both rosters either work together or collide against each other. You had a chance. You had an open challenge against the American Beetle. I think that's his name. He's the champion Kaiju Big Battle, and unfortunately, you did lose. But tell me and the fans at home what exactly is Kaiju Big Battle.
So for first of all, just point of order. Technically didn't lose. The match was thrown out because there was a run-in by Dr. Cube and his minions. So there was no pinfall, there was no submission. We were both attacked. So technically didn't lose. I didn't win. I couldn't claim to win, but I didn't lose. Yeah, Kaiju Big Battle is something very near and dear to my heart. I was a huge fan of them back when I was in college. I used to go to shows as a fan. In fact, I dressed as Doctor Cube for Halloween one year. Um,
Did
and
anyone know
actually,
what that was?
You know, the weirdest thing happened when I was walking around the campus at UMass in costume between classes. I bumped into someone who was dressed up as Pedro Plantain of Los Plantanos from Kaiju Big Battle. So someone else made a kaiju costume and we ran into each other on a campus of 30,000 people. We happened to bump into each other. And like we both froze and looked at each other and then slowly approached. And I said, "Am I supposed to fight you?" And to my surprise, this tiny little girl voice came, because it's a costume that completely covers you. A little girl voice came out and said, "I sure hope not." um, which was so cool. Yeah, so Kaiju Big Battle is it is monster fighting, monster wrestling. Kaiju, of course, is the Japanese word for the style of movies that we would know as Godzilla movies. You know, Japanese monster movies is sort of the American term for it. The Japanese word is kaiju. And these shows, Kaiju Big Battle, if you ever get the chance to see their product, not when they come to other realms, but when they're in their world, it is monster movie fights taking place in a ring for a live audience. There are little cities they smash in the ring, and they have an incredible cast of heroes, led, of course, by American Beetle. And a group of villains who would best be known as the Posse, Dr. Cube's Posse, which consists of a wide array of awful, horrible creatures that Dr. Cube has created. Yeah, it's incredible. They have produced an amazing product for 20 plus years. Doing shows all over the country and even in other countries. They were just in the UK just before the pandemic. And yeah, I had the chance at the Road. Now, to pull the curtain back a little bit, we're not supposed to talk about this, but I have performed for Kaiju Big Battle in the past. I have performed as many of their characters.
Exposing yourself. Wow. And it's all on your YouTube channel, too.
I mean, yeah, a lot of it's on my YouTube channel, including getting to wrestle some pretty notable people. I got to wrestle Daisuke Sekimoto. That's crazy. Just in no, he's is very important Japanese wrestler. It would be like if I said, "Oh, I got to wrestle Hulk Hogan," but no one knew it was me. That's the problem. I got to wrestle Sekimoto 2 nights in a row. No one knew it was me. So
that went from like happy to sad.
Yeah, like on the plus side, he is awesome. He was great. I have some fantastic stories about him backstage picking up parts of the monster suits and just giggling to himself. This giant pit bull monster of a man. I mean, he is a mountain of muscle. He's a foot shorter than me and probably weighs 50 pounds more than I do. Not an ounce of fat on the guy. He's a monster. And yeah, picked me up over his head and just held me like it was nothing. Yeah, they're an incredible product. And again, at the Road, I had the opportunity to be one of only, I think at that point, only 5 or 6 other humans had ever wrestled kaiju characters. And on that list were people like Daisuke Sekimoto, or Kota Ibushi, Chris Hero. These were big names that got to do this. And then Perry Von Vicious. And I do have the distinct honor, I think this is even still true now, although there have been a lot more crossovers since then during the pandemic. I believe I am still the only human to ever challenge for the Kaiju Big Battle Grand Championship.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really happy. And I will say, as Perry, that was my first match with American Beetle. As other characters, I've wrestled American Beetle a number of times, and he is one of my all-time favorite opponents. The performer behind the character is also one of a dear friend of mine. He lives in New York, also a Disney parks fanatic like me. Beetle and I actually ran into each other 2 months before the pandemic hit in Epcot. We both just happened to be in Epcot. Neither of us knew the other was going to be there. I got a message on my phone that said, "Hey, are you in Epcot right now?" And I said, "Yeah." And then I heard this voice go, "Perry!" And there's American Beetle. So we rode the Frozen ride together. It was delightful. We sang Let It Go. I wish I could say that that was just me being funny. That really happened. That we really sang Let It Go at the top of our lungs on the Frozen ride together. All the while, my wife
Now,
just sitting there embarrassed.
Was the American Beetle in costume in his gear,
Uh,
or
that was still during the time when they would not allow a mask in the parks. Now, of course, it's required. But back then, you weren't allowed to have a face covering in the parks for security reasons. So no, Beetle was not in costume.
wow, exposed? If anyone's seen them, the Frozen ride, you know who plays American Beetle. You know who he is. He's not who he says he is.
I will say the performer behind American Beetle is very dedicated to that character. He actually does have a tattoo of American Beetle, which you would never see when he's in costume because the costume's a full bodysuit. So
I'm gonna have to get like a security job on the show or something. Just be like, can you just turn around? I need to. You haven't. It's you. Just kidding. Now, one question that I have for you before we start wrapping it up. I have a few more questions in my holster. Now your YouTube channel, it's been inactive for over a year, and I know like there's really not much content to film, but have you thought about maybe making like some daily vlogs or like a weekly check-in or something? Maybe like a video on how you get strong or like how you feed your chickens,
um,
house projects.
you know, I have considered it. I've thought about it, and if I'm being totally honest, during the pandemic is some of the first time where I haven't been essentially filming a big part of my life. Prior to the pandemic, I had a blog or a vlog for about a year, and before that, I had sketches and promos and matches being filmed, and I was posting pictures on Instagram all the time from being out on the road or clips from matches. And boy, until you stop doing that, you don't realize how exhausting it is. But when I stopped, all of a sudden it's like, boy, I feel like I just earned hours a day back in my life, which I'm going to, of course, immediately lose the second I can be out wrestling all the time again. Uh, but yeah, that's the last year's been fantastic doing these kinds of projects, cleaning up the gym and all that. It's been real important to do that during this time because I know the moment the world comes back and I can be off wrestling, I will never accomplish another thing around the house again as long as I live. I will just be gone on the road all the time. And yeah, so I'm trying to make up for future lost time.
Now, are you the current title holder, stuttering today, um, of any promotions?
I don't think so. I and I had to think very carefully because there was definitely a time in California when I forgot that I was a tag team champion at a company until I was there, and they handed me the belt to carry to the ring. And I had done an interview that week, and they asked, what championships do you have right now, and I said none. I felt really bad. It felt like it seemed like I was saying like, oh, I don't care. It wasn't that. It's just, at the time I was wrestling for 10 different companies every month. So it's hard to remember. No, I believe that currently I am not a reigning champion anywhere.
Is there any championships that you would like to get back first when the world goes back to normal?
I've been eyeing the Let's Wrestle Championship in Maine. It's a very nice looking belt. Mike McCarthy is the current champion, and he is so talented and so great. And another like longtime veteran like me. He's also one of the only other old guys on that show. I believe he, myself, and Eric Johnson are the only frequent roster members there who are over the age of 35. Um, so yeah, just it be yeah. If ever there's a chance where I could take the belt off someone, it's while it's another old guy. Don't give me one of these young people. They got so much energy.
Yeah. What if it was against Rip Bison? How would that come into play?
I mean, you saw us on the road. At this point we've wrestled each other so many times, but none of the matches was like what happened when we got in the ring together at the road. That was purely two guys who were the physically biggest and strongest they've ever been at that point. Uh, Showing each other the respect of swinging with everything they had.
It's like two old guys from that retirement home combining one last time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're sort of like Statler and Waldorf from the Muppets up in the balcony. Only now we were in the ring together. I will say that match, when you watch it back and you watch how fast we're moving and really chucking each other around and swinging for the fences, and I think it's in the first 30 seconds, I do a tope over the top rope and land on the bare hardwood floor. That was the first match filmed on day 2 of taping. The day before I wrestled 3 times, Rip wrestled twice. We had about 6 hours to go back to, we were crashing at Danger Kid from the Main State Posse's house. We had 6 hours to go back there, eat something, get some sleep, wake up, eat something again, get back, get in our gear, and get in the ring. And we were the first match. And when you watch us zipping and flying around and wailing on each other, you would never know that we were doing that on like 3 hours sleep and that we'd just woken up. But we had just woken up, and boy, nothing wakes you up faster than an 8-foot fall onto bare hardwood. Because I'll tell you, I wasn't sleepy after that.
Now, around what time, if you don't mind me asking, I don't know if you'll ever mention this, but what time did the taping start?
So that was day 2. That day, taping started at about 11:30. I believe they were supposed to start at 11. Everyone was supposed to be there by 10. Start at 11, but you know how it is. If there's no audience sitting there waiting, if it takes us another half hour, it takes us another half hour.
It is what it is, Randy.
Yeah.
Now, you had a vicious street fight a couple weeks ago against the Apostles of Chaos, Chris Benet and Logan Black. It was you and Ripper against them. Talk to us about that match and how hardcore it
was. It didn't feel that hardcore at first. The first 5-6 minutes, I was like, oh, this is fine. This isn't so bad. And then we started really kind of getting into it. And, at one point, Chris Benet chucked a water bottle at me that I didn't realize it till I watched the video. I thought I'd bumped into something because it doesn't hurt like when a guy that size is swinging at you. But boy, right around the time that Chris Benet gave me a choke slam on the apron, I started to realize this may have been a mistake. That was the last match we filmed on those 2 days. That was the last match. So that was the 5th match I'd done in less than 24 hours. And I hadn't wrestled in, at that point, 6-7 months. We were 6-7 months into the pandemic when that happened, and I hadn't wrestled in 6-7 months. So, feeling those bumps and those slams again is all fresh. They talk about having a bump callus, where you get used to the feeling of the pain that comes from falling and how that goes away and everything hurts much worse. And that's totally true. But there's also the road trip callus. Driving 5.5 hours each way and staying up incredible. I mean, tapings didn't end till 1 a.m. both nights. So staying up super late and eating food on the road that's not the food you're used to, I felt I wasn't even done changing to get back in the car to go home before I felt like I had just fallen off a building. uh, it was gnarly, and everyone else felt it too, which was awesome. Like everybody was just kind of walking around a little kind of like limping with every step, and you could tell that everyone just kind of felt like we don't know when we'll get to do this again, so why hold back? And that's I think when you watch the 5 matches I had in season 2 of The Road, you can really see that my mindset was not just I don't know when I'll do this again, but my feeling was a little bit like I don't know if I'll get to do this again. Like if this pandemic stretches and stretches, which it could have, we're lucky. It looks like there's light at the end of the tunnel now. But if it had kept going, I'm not in my 20s anymore. Eventually, I'm going to age myself out of wrestling. So I went in there thinking, like, you know what? If these are the last matches I have, why hold back? If I get hurt, whatever.
Now, when you mentioned like it can stretch on forever and ever, I hope you've seen at least the Marvel movies. It kind of felt like when everyone started disappearing after Thanos snapped his fingers, and it was like no one knew when it was coming back, when they were going to come back. So
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, like leaving the tapings that weekend, every carload of guys that left, one by one, it felt a little bit like that. It was eerie and sad. Delmy hadn't moved in with Rip yet. I think that's pretty much public knowledge. It's on their Instagram.
yeah,
They're using the dungeon together.
Oh my
Delmy
god,
hadn't
I
moved in.
didn't know.
Delmy actually moved in like the next day after the tapings, which was nice because we were now in a bubble together because I'd been in the ring with both of them and I'd been in the car with Rip. Um, so we were in a bubble together already. So they were able to ask me to help them move, but no one else, because no one else was in a bubble with them in Western Mass. So I went and helped them move. And, we hadn't planned that out yet. We didn't know I was going to go help them move. That was decided the next day. And when we were leaving the tapings, I think Delmy, I didn't say it to anyone. My worry those could have been my last matches. I didn't mention it to anybody. I think Delmy knew. Delmy watched how I wrestled, and I get the impression that she knew that I was going at it like there was no tomorrow. Because when she said goodbye to me, she was very emotional, like almost like she thought it might be the last time she said goodbye to me. Fortunately, not the case. She stuck with me a while longer. I mentioned I have new gear coming. That's because I've been harassing her, and she sewed me some new gear. So yeah, she stuck with me a while longer. And she and I have never had a one-on-one match. I've wrestled her sister, and I wanted to wrestle her at those tapings, but that coward was ducking me. Delmy, if you're watching this, you owe me a one-on-one match.
Oh, sir, it's some shade. Now, have you ever taken a break from your own home gym and gone to Rip Bison's home gym? The Dungeon is what it's called.
Rip has very kindly offered, but just for the sake of distancing and COVID, I have refrained. I was there when the gym was not being set up, but when the stuff was being moved in. So I know about the space he has, and to me, it wasn't quite big enough for the distancing to really feel right. And plus, I really, really don't want to lift with a mask on. It sounds terrible. I get winded thinking about it. But I'll be vaccinated soon, so who knows? There could be Instagram clips coming at some point where all of a sudden I'm over in the dungeon, or maybe Rip will be down here in the basement. You never know.
I don't picture him in the basement. He wants like the gym, but you never know.
There's he and I were talking about it. There is some equipment I have here that he doesn't have that he would like to use. So that's sort of the thing that would make it happen. Plus, his work is much closer to where I live than where he lives. So it's a shorter drive to my gym for him. Admittedly, he'd have to drive home after, but that's not the point.
Now, you talked about the final question, so we can wrap this up. Because I don't want to take too much of your time. But you mentioned the bumps, the road trips, and like how it can all get mushed together, and like your mind's really not working. Have you accidentally ever called someone the wrong name, like you mix them up in the person during those tapings? Part of it
Uh,
being your mind being overloaded, also being the mask, so you can't recognize them.
I I'm kind of wondering if you've heard something like maybe I did that and I don't know, and you're getting ready to go. Well, so and so told me. No,
No.
uh, I don't believe so. Most of these people are people I'm very close with, and because of the internet, of course, we're all still talking. So that's pretty easy. I will say, early on, when the Rip Bison persona came to be, when Rip dropped an older persona he had been using to perform, the name of
Tomahawk.
which, okay, I was going to say I'm not going to say it because he'll get mad at me. Uh,
Cool.
but
I
yeah,
hope he doesn't watch this.
I will say that I definitely slipped the first few times teaming with Rip and definitely called him Tomahawk in the ring. Um, I, uh, I also for Kaiju Big Battle, when I was myself at the road tapings. I don't think it got picked up on camera, but I definitely called someone who was in a costume by their real name. Someone who I mentioned in this podcast, and someone who may be ducking me, you coward.
Tell me
Um,
XL.
may have been in one of those costumes too, and I may have called them by their name during the match.
The
I
thing
won't.
that I'm thinking of, I'm now gonna have to find any match that you might have been involved in with her being the yellow bear thing.
Maybe she was Bear Ranger. Maybe she was Power Ranguru. Maybe she was Big Calyx. We don't know. There's no way to know who she was in that match. I was the only one with a visible face.
That big counts.
Well, yeah, I mean he's got the mask on. Can't see the whole face. Could have been a
But
fake
he's a
beard.
big guy. But he's like
Delmy's a big
very.
guy.
Are you suggesting that he has like she has like one of those like bigger fat suit type of to look like
No,
someone?
I think they might be the same person. I mean, have you ever seen them in the same place at the same time?
No, actually, don't do this to me on my show.
I'm just saying. Look, I'm not here to spread conspiracy theories, but you can't prove that Delmy Exo is a person independent of Big Calyx.
Wow. If I ever get them on the show again, or if they tell us on the show at least once, or tell me back, um, I have to look into this more. It's like the missing scrunchy uh, case coming
That's
on.
true. We should get Detective Bex would be able to get to the bottom of this, I'm sure.
Before we wrap it up, do you have any input on that? Anything to say about the missing scrunchy case?
You know, it's been a long saga, and we haven't had any closure yet. At one point, Bex had deemed me her Watson, that I would help, and unfortunately, because I'm trapped here in the basement, all I can do is keep an eye on the internet and see where scrunchies pop up. But so
You
far,
exposed Delmy. She had a scrunchie behind
well,
her.
and now on Friday, we're going to see at Suffer No Fools for Limitless Wrestling on IWTV. We're going to see the Sea Stars against Detective Bex, against Becca, but she doesn't have a partner. Who's it going to be? Could be anybody. Could be me. It's not me, but it could be. Maybe it's Big Calyx. We have no way to know.
Um, well, anyway, thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything that you'd like to ask me before we wrap up?
Yeah, I'd like to ask you, where did you get that awesome shirt?
I got it from a yard sale. I'm just kidding.
The online yard sale known as ProWrestlingTees.com/Ferry Von Vicious.
I sure did.
Everyone can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Perry Von Vicious. They can find my YouTube, youtube.com/Perry Von Vicious. When you find me on social media, always in my bio, you will see the prowrestlingtees.com/Perry Von Vicious link. You can follow it right there. While you're there, follow me on those pages, follow the link, buy yourself a shirt. And, I got, by my count, about 30 days until I'm fully vaccinated and ready to start appearing out in the wild again, out on shows. So with any luck, you'll get to see me.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching this interview. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.